Hi y'all, welcome to Two Old Goats and Some Chicks Homestead. Y'all come on in. Today it's cold, wet, and dark outside this morning, and I thought what a better time than to talk coffee in the garden. Um, Coffee in the garden has a couple of different applications, and it also has a couple of different benefits, and I'd like to share those with you. Um, let's start with the pH of coffee. The coffee that most people use in the garden is the used coffee grounds, and the used coffee grounds pH is a neutral pH. Surprisingly, it's neutral. Most people think it's acidic, but it's not. It's neutral. The coffee grounds dry before we brew them are the acidic. Their acidic pH is acidic. Okay, so after we brew them, the pH is neutral. Before we brew the grounds, the pH is acidic. So that's to start. Now, the NPK of the wet coffee, the coffee grounds are the used coffee grounds, is 2.1 nitrogen, 0.3 phosphorus, and 0.3 potassium. And the dry coffee grounds, the nitrogen is 2, the phosphorus is 0.4, and the potassium is 0.7. Okay, so yes, both applications is very good for the garden. So let's start with, the NPK and the pH of coffee. So now that we know that, okay, let's go over the different applications that we can apply, or how we can apply them to the garden. Okay, so we can apply them to the garden. I apply them in two different ways. Wet. I apply them directly to the garden in small amounts, and, turn it in, okay, a little bit around the area of the plant. So if we lay them on top, the grounds tend to bind together and create a barrier. So we do not want to do that. And I don't like to apply them in a large amounts straight into the garden, because it breaks down slowly. Coffee grounds break down slowly. Worms love them, so I like to add them to the soil. It's helped build my worm population, adding different things to the soil, and this is one of those things that I've been adding to my soil. When I first got here, there was no worms at all, or I didn't see any. So I'm glad to, be seeing some worms. The best way that I find to add the used coffee grounds to the garden is in a compost. It tends to heat up, help with the heat, even though it's a brown. Let's back up. Even though coffee grounds are brown, they're considered a green because of their nitrogen content. Okay, their nitrogen level. So it can heat up, it can help heat up a compost bin, compost pile, or however you choose to compost. Okay, because we have to have the browns and the greens in equal, layering. However you choose, I'm sure that you choose to research or whatever, everyone has their own style of composting. There's so many different ways of composting, so but with that being said, in a compost pile, the microorganisms love it, okay, and it gets that compost pile warmed up again. Okay, so yes, I do apply coffee grounds to both the garden in small amounts, and I add it to the compost pile. And another way that I'll be adding the coffee grounds to the garden this year is in dry form. Since its pH, before we brew it, its pH, is acidic, it is good for those acid-loving plants. I just added blueberries last year to the garden, so this year I will be using the coffee grounds to help with the pH level of the soil because I did put them where I had already been amending the soil. So I had already been amending it to make it more of a neutral soil. So now I have to take it in the other direction. So I'm going to be using coffee grounds to help with that. So also I wanted to share with you the mineral content that, or the minerals, some of the minerals that coffee has. It has magnesium, manganese, zinc, copper, calcium, and iron. So those are some great benefits from the coffee. So whether you want to raise the acidity level of your soil, or you want to just add it to the soil because you don't like to waste, or you like to recycle like I do. It's a good way of adding back to our soil. Is composting is my favorite way of adding coffee grounds back into the garden. But again, we can add them to the garden in small amounts. Please don't add them in large amounts, and please don't put them on top. So I hope you guys found this video informational, and if you did, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to follow me along in my journey this year, subscribe and hit that notifications bell. And I'd love to have you follow me on my journey. And until next time, y'all happy homesteading. Bye.